2 minutes. We'll be starting in just 2 minutes. Last chance to grab bagels, coffee, and rolls, yogurt, whatever you want. We need you energized and ready to go at 9 a.m. Thanks.
Just another dusty record on the shelf. Would you blow me off and play me like everybody else? If I asked you to scratch my back, could you manage that? Like if we had chicken travy, I can handle that. Furthermore, I apologize for any skipping tracks. This is the last girl that played me, left a couple cracks. I used to, now I'm over that. Cause holding grudges over love is ancient artifacts. If I could only find a note to make you understand, I sing it softly in your ear and grab you by the hands. Keep me stuck inside your head like your favorite tune. And know my heart's a stereo, the only place for you. My heart's a stereo, it beats for you, so listen close. Hear my thoughts in every note. Come on. Make me your radio, and turn me up when you feel low. This melody was meant for you, so sing along to my stereo.
Welcome, everyone. We're ready to get started. It is so exciting to see so many great, happy, smiling, energetic faces, and you're all math people, and they're the best people ever. I'm not a math person per se. I'm a chemical engineer by training, but I tutor math, and I work with the Greater Cincinnati STEM Collaborative. My name is Melise May, and you'll be meeting some of my colleagues that help put this on for you. But we are just so absolutely thrilled to see each and every one of you. We've worked hard to have a great event for you, and we hope that you fully embrace the day and participate and walk away with something meaningful and feel inspired. So this is actually our third regional math convening. We started almost a little bit over 3 years ago and sent emails to a bunch of math teachers to get together and to see what might be helpful for them. We really weren't sure anybody would show up, so we were really excited. 60 did, and we were like, wow. And so at that, we just sort of said, what is it that you guys what would you like? What would help? What would make you feel supported? And there were 3 things that came up over and over again. One was collaboration. Another one was the whole culture around math, and that's why we're having this event today, ties directly to that. And then one was about curriculum delivery, and so there's some of all 3 of these and what's going to happen the rest of today. Is there anybody here from one of those first 2 meetings? No, yeah, there's some. Yeah, so we continue to expand. Emily over here, you'll meet her later, actually led the work team that took on math culture, and this is the product of that. So what we're doing came from you, so thank you. What else want to say? Just a couple of housekeeping items. Restrooms are out and to the right, if you haven't found those, behind the Stenhouse, who is selling Tracy's book, in case you'd like your own personal copy. Wi-Fi is the guest Wi-Fi. There's no password in case you really need to stay in touch, but please turn off your cell phones and please be present. Okay, so a couple of thank yous. This is our core team. Emily Campbell, Marina Hopkins, Tamara Ragland, Alexa Fulmer, and myself. I really can't say enough about these guys. This was all in addition to the day job. So we have been together early in the mornings, late at night, sending lots of emails, doing all kinds of crazy things to keep both jobs going. I cannot thank them enough. Would you guys please stand? And as everybody sees you, if you have a question, please bug my colleagues. Feel free. Okay? We also had a number of volunteers. I'll list them very quickly. Sherry Boone, Angie from Stripe Partnership, Lori from CPS. We have Brandon Black over here. He's doing graphic documentation of our meeting today. He's from Drawnversation, really cool guy. Look him up if you ever need services like this. Michael Cosman and his sidekick Dylan are behind the cameras. A reminder, please, if you need to get up, which is fine, to get more coffee, restroom, whatever, but try to duck when you get to the camera. Otherwise, your image will be reserved in all posterity on our video film. Mary Rutledge and Tom Law are extraordinary volunteers going above and beyond today. So would all of those folks, if you're here, please stand up and let's give them a quick round. Tom over here did the math music for the morning. There was a real thought into that if you want to hear or get the playlist. Okay. And not only do you need people, but you need money. And this is how the event came about. If we had not had the funds and in-kind donations from the people on this slide, the cost of this would have been nearly $100 per person to attend. So this is majorly discounted. And it's a signal to how important the community feels math is to the future of our children and our community. So thank you for all you are doing to do that, and thank you to our funders, the Greater Cincinnati Foundation, Duke Energy, Hale Foundation, Strive Partnership, Greater Cincinnati STEM Collaborative, the University of Cincinnati, and Xavier University, who's donated the venue today. So thank you to our funders. I know we got a couple in the back. If you guys want to stand up. No, they don't want to, but thank you anyway. Okay, so this is what our hope is for today. We hope to inspire you. Tracy is amazing. She is a teacher's teacher. I love being with her. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy just to hear her talk about math and how she approaches it. We hope that you learned something. We're here to support you. The math circles are intended to do that because we know that you have the expertise, and as you converse and support with each other, you are going to find answers to whatever challenges you face. And we hope to learn from you. So, you know, one of my buddies, Rolando, was one of the extraordinary volunteers, was just in the back saying, I want to sit with the teachers. I know I'm not a teacher, but I want to learn. And that's the kind of attitude that we have. So feel free to share your expertise freely. This is about you. Just a real quick overview, because I know we haven't talked a lot about what's going to happen today or for the year, but we talk about this as a movement, and that's because we know that a one-time event isn't going to get the job done. We need to keep going. That's why the circles, and that's why there'll be some other activities and more things to come. Math collaborative meeting 4.0 or something. We don't yet know. We're working that. Your input's needed. But there's the kickoff today. So you've got the talk from Tracy and some activities. We're going to form the circles and do a kickoff of that. Those are going to be meeting over the course of this school year. We're sort of seeing 3 cycles. That's the blue part. And then at the end, we'll have a culminating event. And you'll get to hear more about that later today and throughout the year. So that's the agenda sort of as outlined for today. The kickoff and the talk. Lunch is at 12. Then we got a little bit of logistical things that need to happen. Our lunch is actually going to be in this room over here. The divider will be pulled back. You'll see that. We're having a really nice Mexican buffet and some vegetarian options, so we hope you all find something that works. We're going to ask those that are interested. This is not yet a commitment because we haven't really given you all of the information, but those that are interested in becoming a circle leader, please get your lunch quickly, come back here, and we're going to give you some more information, okay? And then everyone comes back here for the afternoon program. Questions on that? Anything I left out, team? Other folks? Okay. Alexa, come on up. To the right. Thank you.
All right. Welcome. How is everyone this morning? Come on. I know it's Saturday morning, but Welcome. How is everyone this morning? Okay, that's a little bit more like it. Um, I got the pleasure of spending some time with Tracy last night. She may be recovering because I may have made her a little car sick, driving around some windy roads, but I think she's looking pretty good today. Um, but she is fantastic. I cannot wait to learn from her today. Um, just wow. I'm really, really excited. I wanted more like the dinner to continue, the rides to continue to keep hearing what she had to offer. Just to give you a little information, in case you didn't know, she's the author of Becoming the Math Teacher You Wish You'd Had, Ideas and Strategies from Vibrant Classrooms from its Stenhouse 2017, which grew out of Tracy's work with her colleagues as a math coach. And before that, with pre-service teachers and their in-service mentors. Tracy is most in her element in the classroom, learning together with teachers and students over time. She currently splits her time between coaching and editing professional development books for teachers. While she loves her work dearly, she secretly pines for her fourth grade classroom and hopes to return to full-time teaching someday. So let's bring to the stage Tracy Zager.
Someone else come up and raise the expectations a little higher before I get up here? That'd be awesome. And no, someone's not going to be able to see. Who is this? Alexa, is this you? Yeah. Good morning, everybody. I am so excited about this. Everything about this is the kind of professional development that I live for, because it is all structured with the belief, we were just talking about this over there in that corner, it's structured with the belief that we can do this together, that what we need is time together, that we have centuries of wisdom around teaching and learning in this room, and we need the support to come together over time, try things in our practice, come back and talk about it, try things in our practice, come back and talk about it. That is the best professional development I know. It's sustained and it's supportive. And I am so grateful to all the partners, I'm not going to name them all, you just saw the slide, for making this affordable and for making it sustainable. So that this is a really unusual event. I don't know if you know how lucky you are, frankly, because I'm asked to go to things that are not like this a lot, and I say no, because this is the kind of thing I want to do. So I'm thrilled. One thing we didn't talk about is over the course of the year, I will be with you still virtually. So how that works is going to be really up to us. Like, we're going to build this together, but we've scheduled 3 times where we'll have an online, like via Zoom, if you know Zoom. And so we can make that a webinar, we can make that a conversation, but I can continue to check back in with you over the course of the year. So today is really about a kickoff of a year-long thing. We're doing the first part in person, but through the magic of technology, it's not quite as good to not be in person, but it's better than not being in touch, right? So I'm excited about that. So this morning is a kickoff of a bigger conversation that I'm hoping to frame for us around our own growth in our practice as math educators. So the first thing I want you to do is to just go into your mind for a second and think about the math class that's hardwired into you, the one you experienced as a kid. And honestly, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And so just sit and think for a sec. You might even want to close your eyes. What did it feel like to be a math student? Where were you? Where was the teacher? Who was talking? And how did you spend your time in that math classroom? Just take a sec to think about that. As you are ready, either draw a little sketch or jot a few notes, or if you would like to turn and tell your neighbors, what things came to mind? What do you remember about your own experience as a math student? And say good morning if you haven't yet. Okay, let's start to come on back. So as I was walking around and kind of eavesdropping, I heard a range. We've had a range of positive and negative experiences, which is typical. My expectation is that more were negative than positive, and that's just based out of the research. So for example, these images come from a math methods class where professors asked new teachers, elementary education majors who were taking their math methods, how do you teach math class, to draw 3 things that they remember from math class, and about 2/3 of the drawings were negative. And you see what they are: being put down by a teacher in front of my peers, the teacher, like she's crying, we see she's crying, the time test, do you see that on the bottom? There's a stopwatch and a blank multiplication chart. This comes up all the time. This is actually the #1 painful memory I hear about. Even if you say to kids, you're really going against yourself and it's a game and just graph your progress, this is still how kids feel and continue to feel with time fact testing. This general feeling of being embarrassed or ashamed, publicly humiliated. Often there's a gender or a race component to it. There's a lot of, when you talk to teachers about what they remember, often there was like a female teacher at the board embarrassed by a male teacher, or an expectation that you won't be good at math because of your cultural background. So these are painful memories that come up for people. Some people have really good memories, but only 7% of elementary teachers have only positive memories. So 93%, when you look at the research, 93% have at least some negative and some positive. So I think from that, it's clear most of us did not have the experience we should have had when we were math students. Like, what we experienced was not that great, right? And now, here we are, we're math teachers. And this is, I just view teachers as a subset of people in this country, right? Like, we came through the same system everybody else did, and now we're in charge of it, and we're trying to do better for our kids than was done for us. And that is really hard work. And that's the work that I want to do and be part of. So the words that come up when teachers talk about their experiences are often words like this. I know a lot of teachers who've been asking their kids say a couple words, and they look just like this too, still, to this day, right? So I think about this a lot. And I wonder, how can we teach something if this is how we feel about it? And I can tell you that it actually impacts how we teach. So just a little bit of the research. Teachers who have, so first of all, 1 in 3 elementary school teachers working today could be treated by a doctor for math anxiety. Like, has clinically treatable math anxiety. The way that you would fear, heights, right? So if I give a math problem, there's a physiological response, like your heart rate goes up, your palms start to sweat, you want to get out the room, right? Like, there's a real panicky fear that starts to come in. So we know that there's this large incidence of math anxiety. When we study how that impacts kids, teachers who have higher rates of math anxiety teach math for fewer minutes per day. They teach it toward the end of the day, like after third recess, right? Is the thing that goes if there's an assembly or something, anything, math is the thing that goes. Teachers who feel like this also lecture more, ask fewer questions. Their students achieve at a lower rate, for sure. One of the most interesting studies was from Bylock. She's actually in Chicago, and she studied first graders. So at the beginning of first grade, like 6 years old, she had kids draw somebody doing math and somebody reading. And then at the end of the year, she had kids draw somebody doing math and somebody reading. And the more math anxious the teacher was, and the teachers were women because it was first grade, and that maps to our society. The more math anxious the teacher was, at the end of the year, those girls in those classes drew boys doing math and girls reading. And I know that those teachers did not get up there and say, I make my husband balance the checkbook, or whatever, these terrible messages that we give to kids. I know they were trying to hide it, but the kids pick it up anyway because kids are brilliant. All our kids are brilliant. And so Thinking about the hidden curriculum or the unspoken messages we give kids around math, a lot of it has to do with our own personal feelings about math. So I think about this a lot. But there's another element to this that I think about, which is if this is what math is like, why does anybody do it? Like, this looks awful. This is painful. Like, why is it a thing? Why is math a thing? So I went and I started researching like 7 or 8 years ago. How do mathematicians describe math? Is this how they talk about it? And their words are very different. Altogether more appealing. Like, that's a whole other subject, right? That's like a whole other thing. This doesn't have any resemblance to school math that we experienced or that is typical still. So this is the question that occupies me. This is like why I wrote the book. This is why I coach the way I coach. Is I think if what we experienced was the thing on the left, but what math really is the thing on the right, and I know if we taught it the way the thing on the right is, people would like it a whole lot more. Like, our kids would be a lot happier and more engaged, and like a lot of our problems would go away if we were experiencing it more like the thing on the right. How do we do that work? And that is something that I cannot do for you in 2 hours, but it's a conversation that we can engage in over time. So when I coach, this is what's on my mind. When, like, people have me come in and you know, like, we're all busy, right? You guys gave up your Saturday in September. I cannot believe this. I am honored. But often when I work with teachers, they're like, just tell me what I need to do on Monday. Like, just give me something I can use, right? My kids still screw up area and perimeter. I cannot figure out how to teach that so that they keep them straight. Like, give me a thing that's going to help me teach area and perimeter. And teaching area and perimeter matters. But I push to, these are the two things I hold in my hands. Like, that's literally how I think about it when I'm coaching, is I'm working on our professional skills and strategies, but I'm also working on our personal understanding of the discipline, because it is through that knowledge that we teach. Like, this is still a human profession. Thank goodness, right? We bring ourselves into the classroom. We are not just some vessel through which teacher-proof, it's like the most insulting phrase ever written, right? Teacher-proof curriculum, right? No. We are fully human beings, and we're going to bring into the classroom our own enthusiasm for math, our understanding of math, or the lack thereof, right? So I want us to invest in the thing on the left, which is a harder sell, because it's like, well, but how do I use that on Monday? But what I know, and what I was trying to make the case with the research, is that it's affecting your students, whether you think it is or not. So it's worth it to invest in the time, indulge in the time to think about your own understanding of the discipline of math. But also, it's worth it for you. And this is where this subject gets extremely personal for me. I started the book with this story about my mom. Like, I wrote this book because of my mom. And my mom had been told by her dad that she didn't think right, and she wasn't good at math. And so my whole life, I watched what that did to my mother to not think that she was smart because of math. Like, what is it about math that it gets very wrapped up in our identities? We feel it very acutely. If we feel like we're not good at math, that means we're not very smart. And so I have just been so privileged. Like, the teachers that I've been working with in my school in New Hampshire for 6 or 7 years, like, the journey that I have seen for them individually as people, separate from teaching, but just to reclaim parts of themselves, to be like, oh, I got this. Like, I'm competent at this. I'm smart. I have things to offer mathematically. It's transformative for them as people. So I just believe in investing in teachers as people. And I know that teachers tend to be selfless and say, well, I'll do that if it's good for my kids. And it is good for your kids, but it's also good for you. So I hope that you will indulge me in a little bit of that this morning. So we're going to spend the first block of time this morning trying to get to know what math is really like by looking at what mathematicians do. And then we're going to spend we'll take a little break, and then we'll spend the next block of time doing some math ourselves so that we get to experience that thing on the right. That's my goal, is for us to have a glimpse of the thing on the right personally, to like know it in our bones because we did it, okay? So here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to show a quick video up here of a mathematician at work. I'm going to explain the video in just a sec. While she is working, I'm going to be scribbling on this chart paper right here as fast as I can. I'm going to be listening for, because she talks really fast. This is going to be a Vi Hart video, if you know Vi Hart. She's super fun, but she talks faster than I do, and it's pretty killer. But I'm going to write as fast as I can. what I see and hear her doing. Like, what are the verbs? What are the actions of doing mathematics? What does it look like? Because if you ask kids, what does it look like to do math? They say it looks like filling out worksheets. Like, teacher gives you a question, you give the answer. If you're good at it, you got the answer right, you did it quick, like that kind of thing, right? And that's not really what it looks like to do math if you watch mathematicians at work. So we're going to watch a mathematician at work, and I'm going to record the verbs. Not every verb. She washes her hands. I'm not going to write that down. But I'm going to record the verbs that have to do with math up here. And I'm doing this, I'm kind of modeling what you're going to do. Because once we do this, then I'm going to cut you loose, and we're going to have some work time where I have brought some other primary resources. Mathematicians' writings about their work, picture books about mathematicians, and a whole bunch of stuff on the internet of like videos and articles about mathematicians who are alive and working today. And then you will have time to work at your tables in pairs, on your own, in threes, however you want to do it, to record the verbs that you find in what you read. And then we'll get those up on the wall, and we're going to use those today, okay? So I'm going to show that with this Vi Heart video. I'm going to put this thing down and grab a pen, and we're going to let Vi start babbling right now. She's awesome. She's going to play with fruit by the foot. You remember this candy? The gunky candy? She's going to look for math and candy, okay?
So I saw these fruit by the foot, or fruit by the feet, maybe fruits by the foot. Anyway, I figured they had mathematical potential, so I decided to just record myself playing with them. The first thing that comes to mind when there's a strip of paper, even paper covered in fruit-flavored sugar, is to make a Mobius strip. So I did. Thing about Mobius strips is they have one side, while fruits by the foot are by nature two-sided. A normal loop would have a paper side and a sugar side. Putting a half twist in would make a sudden transition from one to the other. But you can also do this. Wrap it around twice so the sugary part sticks to itself and the entire outside is covered in paper. Here's our Mobius strip. After confirming that Sharpie flip chart markers won't bleed through the paper, I drew a line along the single side of the Mobius strip, but that's not telling us anything that we didn't already know. Just like one line can cover both sides, except really one side, the paper does too. So unlike a normal loop of fruit by the foot covered in paper, which would need two pieces, one for each side, the Mobius strip can be unwrapped by pulling off a single strip of paper. I went and washed the Sharpie off my hands and then came back to see what else I could do. The strip of fruit-flavored gunk has these two lines going down it, perforations dividing it into thirds. One of the go-to Mobius strip fun things is to cut it in half down the middle, but after that, cutting it into thirds is the next thing to do, and it's as if fruit by the foot is designed for this purpose. So I started separating it along this line. You might want to pause here and think about what you think would happen. So I continue around, and when I loop around once, now I'm on the other side, and it turns out to not have been two lines, but one line that goes around twice. Let's see what we've got. It's completely whoa. I mean, this is totally magical to me that there's these two loops, and they're linked together, and they're not even the same size, and they're like made of flavored sugar gunk. But let's understand what's going on. You can do it with paper too. I cut out a strip, twist, and tape. Now I'm coloring the edge, both to demonstrate that the Mobius strip only has one edge, and so that we can keep track of it. Because when we cut a strip into thirds, you could also think of it like this. You're cutting the edge off. This leaves a thinner Mobius strip and a long looping edge. Because of the twist, the edge loops around the body of the Mobius strip, so the two are linked. Really though, you should just try it yourself. After making a Mobius strip and ripping it into thirds, I poked at the leftover bit of fruit by the foot, waiting to be inspired. I don't know, it's spirally? I opened up another package so I'd have more to play with. Bam! Whoa! It's got this pattern on it. I mean, I don't remember this at all about fruit by the foot, but then again, it's not like I've had one in the past like 15 years. And last time I had a fruit by the foot, I wouldn't have recognized that this is a freeze pattern. A symmetric pattern that repeats in one dimension. I mean, repeating patterns are good because they have a rolling stamp that just kind of presses this pattern into it. But it's got other symmetry too. The two halves of this pattern are exactly the same, but not the same as in mirror symmetry going the long way. But it does have mirror symmetry going the short way, plus this point of 180-degree rotational symmetry, which basically means if you turn this strip of fruit roll up around, the pattern is the same. But it's neat that it does this in two tessellating halves, so you can flip it around and fold it in half and everything. Okay, so I opened the last of my fruits by the foot, hoping for another freeze pattern, but it's the same as the last one, so I make a normal non-Mobius loop, and then I make a couple more and decide to put them together in a Baromean configuration. The Borromean rings are this arrangement of 3 loops that you see sometimes, and they're linked in such a way that no 2 loops are actually linked with each other. I mean, if you look at just 2 of the 3, they're not linked. If you undid any one loop, the other 2 would also be separated, yet the 3 together are stuck. I tightened the loops up because they form this nice wrappy cube, and then I decided to try taking off the paper, but it was tricky because everything's sticky and linky, so it didn't turn out so well. So since I'm labeling things, I labeled the Mobius strip part, and that reminds me that the frieze patterns and Mobius strips are related. At least this particular frieze pattern has, as a result of its other symmetries, glide reflection symmetry, and glide reflection symmetry means that a pattern can be Mobius stripped. See, when I loop it around into a Mobius strip, the pattern exactly matches up, even though it's upside down. Oh, glide reflections. The glide is the loop part, and the reflect is the flip part. And what that means is that, with just 1/2 of this nice tessellating pattern, we can loop it with a twist, and it matches up perfectly with itself to make a complete strip. At least, theoretically. In practice, it's a rather sticky process.
So take a sec to talk about what you noticed. Let me be super explicit. My goal is not for you to understand the math of Borromean rings or Mobius strips. My goal is for you to think in a more meta way, like what did she do there? What did you see the habits of mind of a mathematician? They were just exposed to you. You got to watch one at work. So what do you notice? And I wrote these up. These might help you, or you might just talk about what you saw in what she did. I will tell you, when I did this with a room full of principals, they all said most of those words are literacy words, not math words. It was so interesting. So chat for a sec about Vi, and then we'll talk about the next thing. Okay. So an N of 1 is never a good enough sample size, right? Like, not all mathematicians do it the way Vi does. This is one particular style. So we're going to broaden our inputs, our information about what it looks like to do math. So I'm going to give you a range of resources, but just as a preview, we'll put the sticky chart paper on your tables, or you can use one of the easels, doesn't matter. But you're going to get some work time where you can look at a resource, and I'll show you what the resources are in just a second. And then as you're ready, grab the marker and just start writing down those actions, those verbs, like what do you notice that the mathematicians are doing? These are just some examples that other teachers have done. This is not about making the super pretty thing on the right. This is just about getting the verbs down. Mine is obviously a big mess, and I know you guys can't even read it from back there. And we'll get them up, and then you'll walk around and see what other groups noticed because they read different things than you did. So let me just walk you through what some of the choices are. We can wait, I think. But no, we're good. We can wait on those. Thank you, Melise. So this is a breaking all the rules of PowerPoint right here, but I'm going to leave this up so that you have it as a resource. So there are really 3 different types of resources I brought you. So we'll start on the left. I have scoured the children's books around mathematicians, and most of them don't help my cause very much, but some are fantastic. So I have brought 6 different books with me. Some are on the chairs right there, some are on the chairs over here, and some are here on the podium. Some of them are biographies, like Blockhead is about Fibonacci, who found patterns in nature. The Boy Who Loved Math is about Paul Erdős, who was a Hungarian mathematician, a super quirky guy who traveled all around the world. I think of him like a pollinating bee. Like and this book is written in a super graphic style, which kids really like. I'm looking for a picture. There's this picture here that shows him. It says, he knew that mathematician plus mathematician plus mathematician equals more and better math. So he was into doing math socially. Grace Hopper, who figured out computer coding. This is actually a brand new book, just came out this year. On a Beam of Light is about Einstein. There are a million books about Einstein, right? This one's fantastic because it actually gets into how he thought, what he did. It involves a lot of daydreaming and wondering and asking questions and walking around barefoot and eating ice cream cones and thinking. And it's very approachable for kids. And then Nothing Stops Sophie. This is another new book this year. We're starting to have the recognition that we should have better representation of female mathematicians in the books. This one thing that's interesting is all the books about female mathematicians focus on their perseverance. It's like the theme. Like, she did it anyway, even though she's a woman. It's like the subtext. But this is a really good one. I just think that's interesting. Infinity in Me is not like any of the other books. This is one of my favorite books I've ever read. It's not about somebody famous. It's about a little girl who's struggling with infinity. And infinity is unsettling. Like, if you think about infinity and you're 6 years old or 8 years old or whatever, that's a bit of a disturbing idea, but exciting, right? Like, every kid loves infinity. Like, I double dog dare you to double dog infinity or whatever they say. You know, find me a kid who doesn't like infinity. So what she does is she goes through her day asking everybody, how do you see infinity? Like, how do you visualize it? She asked the guy who works at school behind the lunch counter, and he talks about a noodle he cuts in half forever. She asked her grandmother, and she talks about ancestors and descendants, right? So it's all different ways to visualize infinity. Spoiler alert, it's not solved by the end. Like that, not everything you do in math is something you can fit in a lesson, right? So she's still wrestling with it at the end. So I love this book. Now, there's a problem with what I just shared you. There's a huge representation problem in the children's books. They're great, but they can like help us fix some of our myths around what mathematicians do, but they can also add to them because they make it seem like, except for Infinity and Me, to be a mathematician you need to be a dead white man or woman. Like that's your job. You know what I mean? Like that math is something that happened in the past and it's not global and it's only for certain cultures and races, and that is not okay. So this is where we turn to the internet. Do you see up here this tiny URL? That's the link you're going to want, and the internet is free. You don't need a password to get on. This is going to take you, we're going to go there, to a one tab. One tab being my favorite Google Chrome extension because you can share a whole bunch of links with one link. So if we go to the internet, we start to see better representation. This is going to be funny because of the way my computer screen is here. This is about the first woman Fields medalist who is from Iran. She's Persian. I can't get it centered on my screen because of the display issues, but it's a lovely article. So we have a whole bunch of different things here. The TED Talk is actually, this is fascinating because it comes out of Australia, and it's about Australian women who are upset about the Great Barrier Reef dying, which it's doing because of climate change. So they started crocheting the Great Barrier Reef, and they installed it in museums all around the world to draw attention. And she gets it, like, it's like the interface of math and social justice and environmental activism and like how crochet, feminine handicrafts, like traditional feminine handicrafts, actually enabled us to understand math that people were not able to figure out with a computer, but they could figure it out with a crochet hook. It's really interesting. My friend Annie Perkins, she is a teacher in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I must be able to get this. Do you have an idea for how I could change the display so we can see this? The green dot, like that. All right. There we go. Good call. Thank you. So Annie is a high school math teacher in the Twin Cities, and she was teaching, and one of her students said, "It's too bad I can't be a mathematician." And she said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I'm Mexican." And she said, "Where'd you get that idea?" And he said, "Because all the guys in the book are white." And she said, no, there are tons of Mexican mathematicians. And he said, "Like who?" And she said, "I'll get back to you tomorrow." Because she didn't know either, right? Like, that's the thing. We grew up with a whitewashed history of math. So she started doing research. And so she's calling this the Mathematicians Project. And so she tells the story here. It is an incredible, I'm going to just scroll down to it, searchable database of mathematicians from all over the world, every culture, what they did, organized. She had to organize it in some way, so it's organized male, female, and trans or non-binary. And so she does, like with her kids, every Friday or something, they take 15 minutes and the kids choose someone off the Mathematicians Project. They learn about them and they jigsaw it out and they share it out. And pictures of these mathematicians go up on the walls. So she's explicitly taking time from her math class to focus on representation so that her students all know that math is for them. And in fact, if it weren't for her students' heritage, we wouldn't have the number 0. Thank you very much, right? Like, the Mayan history of math is unreal. So, so this is an amazing resource. So now I'm going to get out of all this, if I can, and come back here. So all those things can be found on the one tab. So you just need tinyurl.com, and then it's just my name and M3 for today. And then finally, this piece of paper that's blue, this, in my research, I just gathered some writings from mathematicians that I found particularly illuminating or moving, and help me understand what it is that they do. And there's enough of these for, I think, for one for everybody. So you can grab these and just find the verbs in it. So, do you understand the task? The idea here is, now I'm going to shut up, and you're going to have some work time where you can get up and go get a book, get a blue piece of paper, you can open up a device, you can watch a video, you can read an article, you can surf the Mathematicians Project, and you're just going to take like probably 10 minutes, maybe on your own, maybe with a partner, reading through something. And then at some point, I'll nudge you to start making what you're learning public for everybody, and we'll get chart paper on your table, and you'll start putting the verbs on that. And hopefully what happens is, like, if you have 3 or 4 pairs, not 4, yeah, 3 or 4 pairs of people or 5 pairs of people at your table who worked, or some single people, that, like, as you make your chart paper, you'll talk to each other, and you'll say, well, this is what I read, and here were the main things, and someone might be writing for you, or you're writing. I'm not going to micromanage this. But the idea is that at your table, be responsible for trying to get what people learned onto that chart paper and then stick it up somewhere it sticks, probably with the wood and the walls on the sides. The curtains are going to be a no-go, right? And then you'll walk around and see what other people notice. But first, I want you to take some time and just, like, remember I said about indulge in your own understanding of what mathematics is by learning for yourself what mathematicians do. Any questions about what we're doing? Okay, you ready? So choose whatever appeals to you. There are a bunch of choices to make here. And you can get up and get to work, and then we'll come back together in a little bit. Let me see what time it is. let me just say for the chart paper, you can work on it at your table, or you could stick it up on the wall and I'll walk over there and work on it vertically, or grab an easel. Okay, you do what works for you. So if you haven't started using the chart paper yet, start to move your way toward that. Again, you can use the easels or the tables or the walls. And there should be a marker on your table. Let me know if you need one. So now is the firmer nudge. If you haven't picked up your marker yet, pick up your marker. It doesn't matter if you didn't finish the book or whatever, and start getting some of those ideas down. And actually up on the walls. Okay, can we pause just for a minute? I know some groups aren't done, and that's fine. I just want to orient you, and then we're going to take a break in just a sec. So, can I just talk for a sec about doing this with kids? What I'm showing up here is the chart paper that came out of a classroom, a first and second grade multi-age classroom. That's where I started doing this work, was with my friend Debbie Nichols, who teaches me every single time I go in her classroom, which I still do all these years later. And we noticed that her kids, the way they were talking about math was not going well. Like, I'm actually going to switch here. Because what would happen is, if she gave them a rich task, she would have kids start to get really into it, and then in pockets around the room, you would hear like, oh, this is easy. And all the other kids would stop working. Like, have you seen that in your classroom, right? This is easy. Like, 3 little words cause us big problems. So she and I were having this conversation about, like, what is it about easy? Why do they want it to be easy? Like, Vi didn't want it to be easy. You know what I mean? She was, like, creating challenges for herself with a piece of candy, you know. So what kids were valuing was not what mathematicians valued. In Debbie's class, we felt like kids valued speed. They valued getting it right, and they valued not having it be hard. They wanted to know it without doing any work. So we opened a conversation about that. And so we said to them, well, what do mathematicians do? You know, that's what you're saying it means to be good at math. What do mathematicians think? And there was this, like, silence. And then she's like, what are mathematicians? No idea, right? What is math? And then we started asking the kids, like, maybe that's our core question. Let's start with that. And it dawned on me that we never define math to kids. We just start doing it. Science is my first love, and when we teach science, we spend some time talking about what scientists do, what the scientific method is, like what science is as a discipline takes on. But we don't do that about math. We just start doing it. So kids define math based on their lived experience. They say it's when the teacher gives you a worksheet and you write down the answers and then you give it back. That's what math is. That's what math is 180 days in a row. So that must be what it's what we do during math time. That must be what math is. So we started with this. This was like an honest artifact. We started with the forest green marker. The first day, Debbie wrote math in the middle, and she wrote is and can be found. And then eventually she added in orange this idea of takes, but that never really took off. So the very first day we said, what is math? And what we got from the kids was math is fun. Math is good. Math is helpful. Math is adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, like fractions. Math is interesting. Like math is, I don't really know, but I want to please my teacher, so I'm sucking up right now and saying nice words. Like they had no idea. No idea. So we started doing this work with them. That's everything you just did, we did with kids. And so we would like show a little video. She would show a little video during snack. So the one that was the biggest hit, I didn't put it on the list, but Smithsonian Magazine had a video about the math of juggling. Super interesting. And it shows at the very end there's a woman with long hair, and they tie 3 tennis balls to the bottom of her hair, and they juggle it. And do you know what you get? A braid. It braids her hair down in this rope. And the kids were like, you know, like, what? How do those things connect? We started showing them the Vi Hart videos, and we said to them, was she doing math? We showed them this video, Fruit by the Foot. Is she doing math? No, that's not math. Why not? Because there were no numbers. What else? Because she was playing. There's no playing in math, right? And then some kids were like, well, some of it was math because she wrote stuff down. They have this idea that like if you write it down on paper, it's math. So interesting. So we said, okay, we're going to tell you she's a mathematician. What you just watched was math. And then with kids, and I would take the time if we had all day, but we got out the Fruit by the Foot, right? And the kids got to play with it. And we got out adding machine tape, which is like beautiful. At some point, everyone gets sticky, and it's like, ugh, this is a nightmare. Let's play with these Mobius strips. And so just rolls of adding machine tape, like one roll is plenty for your class. You give them long strips of that, and they start cutting it in half and thirds. You just need tape and adding machine tape. So they played with it, and I was like, well, what was that like? So we started doing this work. It was a beautiful way to start the year of what is math. The day we read the picture books, which we got some other adults to help us, because these are first graders, so they can't read these books independently, we got the red words. You see, after reading those books, we got imagining, wondering, questioning, brainstorming. Intuition is up there somewhere. Like now we're starting to get somewhere. Like this is a richer discussion of what math is than math is good, math is fun, right? Which is a lie. We thought that was a lie. So we started really pulling out this much richer idea of what the discipline is. But here's this, and I love this for the beginning of the year. I love it for the beginning of anything. I love it for Monday, whatever. Like anytime you do it, it's really productive. But it must connect to what kids actually experience. Like the challenge then is on us to make math really like those things and these things that you have on the wall. You can't do this and then just go back to the workbooks and have them think like, yeah, I'm doing what mathematicians do, right? That's just going to be, oh, that's a thing we did in September. It's on posters. But what math really is like the teacher gives a demonstration and then we work some examples and then we have independent practice. And so kids they will follow our actions more than our words, right? They're smart. And so we have to actually back this up by making math feel like this every day, which is like the whole rest of our time is to think about that. And the challenge, basically, I feel like I could spend a whole career thinking about that. How do I move math closer and closer to that? So what I want to do is I want to take a break now. We're going to come back and we're going to do some math that hopefully feels like these verbs. So let me give you a time frame. I forgot my watch today. It's driving me nuts. Okay, so it's 10:12. So let's come back at 10:25 and be ready to start at 10:25. During your break, if you would pile up the books, you can't take those home. Those are mine. I lugged them all the way from Maine. But keep the blue paper. If you would finish your chart paper and get it up, use the bathroom, get food, drinks, all that kind of stuff. And if you have time, and a lot of you have not yet gotten up, get up and look at what the other people did. Just like let those words start percolating in your brain, okay? So it's like time to finish up, take a gallery walk, return the books, take a break, starting in at 10:25. Sound good? Okay.